Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, CarrikerChronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a science. Now, before I bring ESPN's Joey Galloway on, I wanted to offer my quick thoughts. Now, it's pretty obvious Matt Rhule's honeymoon period is over, and I don't want to say that that's okay. But if you're like me and you don't think that Husker fans should hit the panic button, then go ahead and smash that like button. And as always, if you haven't done so yet, and if you're so inclined and you'd like to, you can hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Last Sunday night, I did something on this show. I look back, I haven't done it in 3 years. I had a whole whiteboard up here, and if you missed the show, go back and check it out. I went through a bunch of offensive plays, from RPO to run plays to talking about Nebraska's identity, and they need one as a team, they need one as an offense, different things that they could possibly do, and how some X's and O's work on offense. All right, on tomorrow's show, Wednesday, 6 p.m. on YouTube Central Time, 7 p.m. on all the social media platforms, I'm going to be bringing a former 10-year NFL vet, a national champion in Division I of football, a man who's a national college football analyst on Sirius XM Radio, Ben Hartzog. So tune in tomorrow as well. Now, Joey, real quick. Joey is a former teammate of mine from 2 years when I was in D.C. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met when it comes to football, especially. There's a reason he works at ESPN, but he's not afraid to voice his opinion. And that's what I love about him. I have no idea what he's going to say. So that's why I wanted to give my quick thoughts. I want to give the floor to Joey right after this. We're literally recording the interview right after this. I have no idea what he's going to say. And that's kind of what excites me the most about this interview. Here are my quick thoughts really quick. And then I want to give Joey the floor. Obviously, the Indiana game was ugly. We didn't compete in any way. And then people see Ohio State coming. And I get it. They're like, oh, crap. Okay, I completely understand that. There's plenty of things that need to be evaluated and need to be fixed with Husker football. Nobody's debating that. But here's the facts. All right. I love facts because facts don't care about feelings. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about mine. I love dealing in facts. So here's the facts. We're 5-2 with a very bad loss and a frustrating loss to a number 20 team in the country, Illinois. They actually look to be pretty good. Just beat Michigan 21-7. And I know Michigan's not Michigan, but they're still Michigan, if that makes sense. All right. And we also have a win over Colorado. So those are the facts right here, right now, if you just think about that for a minute. Now, worst case scenario, 1 week from now, we're 5-3. All right. And we have 4 games left that are, frankly, all winnable and all losable, if you look at them. Best case scenario, we shock the world on Saturday. You never know. Vanderbilt beat a number 1 ranked team earlier this year. They've never done that before in their history. But my biggest thought is this. While Rhule's honeymoon period is over and Husker fans have a right to be mad, all right, I don't think we should panic. I really do. I do not believe that we should panic because you never know what can happen. But also, while the Indiana game was bad, it's just one game, okay? And Rhule has been through this before at 2 other schools that were in much worse situations and much harder to win at than Nebraska. Just my 2 cents. Now, before we bring Joey on, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So I want to give a shout out to DPS Concrete Construction. If this is the line of work you do, ladies and gentlemen, retaining wall work, concrete work, and you're looking for a place with a good boss, a great company, it's DPS Construction. Jason Armstrong is that boss, that owner, that guy to work for. If this is the type of work you need done, concrete, retaining wall work, and the like, go to dpsconstruction.net. Again, that's dpsconstruction.net. Also, shout out to Allen Capital Group. They have offices in Omaha, Grand Island, Ogallala. You can check them out at allencapgroup.com. That's ALLENCAP, allencapgroup.com. Allen Capital Group, next level solutions for next level needs. And I've said this before, they've taken care of my family's finances for over 10 years, a decade plus. There aren't many things in this world that put more stress on a life, a marriage, just things in general than finances. Knowing, if you go with Allen Capital Group, knowing that your finances are in the hands of very knowledgeable experts and just good, trustworthy people, it puts your mind at peace. Now, let's throw it to Joey. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined by our special guest, a 16-year NFL vet. He was the 8th pick in the first round in the NFL draft when he came out, All-American, a 2-time All-Big Ten performer, and ESPN's own Mr. Joey Galloway. How you doing, my friend? All right, man. Nebraska, Ohio State coming up this weekend. But the first thing I want to chat with you about, I want to talk about Nebraska as a whole. Like, what is, okay, like the national perception of Nebraska football at the moment and Matt Rhule as well?
I think from my perspective, now I can't speak for anybody else, but from my perspective, Nebraska it's an improved team. But I think to take the next step, you're going to have to start knocking off some of the ranked teams on your schedule. And as far as like in the Big Ten this season, we see Illinois having a lot of success. We see Indiana having a lot of success. We expected Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon to be good football teams. Not quite sure what Michigan is going to turn out to be yet. It isn't going great for Michigan. It isn't going great for USC. And so as the landscape of the Big Ten is laid out, to take that next step, you sort of have to knock off some of those teams. And so the loss to Indiana this past weekend is a huge hit to that. And so now you go Indiana and Ohio State back-to-back, and you would love to have one of those wins where you didn't get the first one, and the next one's going to be tough because it's at Ohio State. So to get into like that upper echelon of the Big Ten, you have to start knocking off some of these teams, and Nebraska just hasn't done it yet.
Talk to me about what grade would you give Nebraska's season so far? We're 7 games in, 5-2, got the big momentum win over Colorado, a rough, tough loss, disappointing versus a pretty good Illinois team, number 20 in the country, just beat Michigan, and then obviously Indiana goes the way it goes. Well, what grade would you give the season so far for the Huskers? Obviously, we got a lot of ball left to play, though.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I don't really, it's tough to put a grade on it because you sort of have to go by, where you started and where you end up. I agree with you. When you get the win over Colorado, that's a great feeling. It builds momentum. But again, there are certain hurdles during the season, and we always call those hurdles the ranked games. And like the other games are there, but you don't get a ton of credit for some of those wins. You don't get a ton of credit for the UTEP win, the Northern Iowa. You know what I mean? Like Purdue is not very good. Rutgers is a close game. They were ranked at one time, they're not ranked now. And so if you gauge it by just playing the ranked teams, which is how we would look at that nationally, then it's not a real good grade because the 2 ranked teams, you guys didn't fare well, and then the last one is really a bad look when it's that kind of blowout against Indiana.
Yeah, I get it. So we're about a year and a half into the season, okay? A year and a half into Matt Rhule's tenure, season 2. How do you see Matt Rhule and the job he's done so far here at Nebraska?
Well, you get Raiola, which is huge. And in today's world of transfer portal, NIL money, it is what can you recruit? What can you bring into your program? I think one of the things that we've done in the past, 10, 15 years is we've become very impatient as fans. We don't give coaches much time. I mean, it is like 2 years and we're already thinking, who's next? And so when you're talking about recruiting, building teams, especially programs that hadn't had a lot of success before you got there for a number of years, we need to give these guys more time to do that. And so if you look at the year and a half, you go get one of the top few quarterbacks in the entire country, I think that's a huge notch on your belt. Now, you have to put pieces around him, you have to help him, you have to get a run game. All young quarterbacks need a run game to help. And so, again, I think it's too early to judge, but I do think that getting Dylan Raiola to come to Nebraska is a huge step for Matt Rhule.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've kind of mentioned, hey, Saturday was ugly. There's things that need to be addressed and improved going forward, no doubt about it. But also, I look at Matt Rhule and I look at the job that he's done so far, and for me, I don't think there's a reason to hit the panic button. I do think going forward, because there's a lot of coaches' names here at Nebraska right now, some fans are like, oh, we got to fire him and let him go, and I understand the frustration and the passion. What I think needs to happen, though, is an insane evaluation process for this last half of the season, hasn't happened yet under Matt Rhule's tenure going forward, but I don't think there's any sort of reason to panic. Would you kind of agree with that?
I am not a panic person, to be honest with you. I would give guys at least 4 years. If you're talking about turning over a roster, you're talking about bringing in recruits, especially in this world now with NIL money, that is very important to what you can do as a coach. You guys have some big name programs left on your schedule. USC is on there, Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State this upcoming weekend. And so this thing could turn out really good if you can knock off some of those guys, and it can really look ugly if you don't. And so we're midway through. If I was to say you had 3 big tests, you beat Colorado, you lost to Illinois, which is a really good football team, and you got really beat down by a really good Indiana team. So, again, grade not great for the first half, but the second half could be important.
Yeah, I'm with you. For me, it's interesting because when you talk about Matt Rhule and everything that's going on, it's tough with Husker fans because they look at Indiana and they see how quickly they did it and they see how quickly it's happening other places. Meanwhile, Harbaugh at Michigan took a little bit longer to ultimately get to where they wanted to go. But one of the guys that's really come under fire, this isn't news here that I'm breaking here on the Chronicles, is offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. He talked today about, in his press conference, he's got to buy into more into the running game, and it starts with him, and that's how you win in this conference and things of that nature. And he's got to do more of it, which indicates to me that wasn't exactly what he was trying to do before. Again, I don't think that's going to shock anybody. But there was a part of the press conference where he was asked, what is a reasonable amount of yards per play as a play caller for him to expect from his offense? And he really wasn't sure what they were averaging. He goes, we're probably averaging between 4 to 6 yards. The reporter, Kevin, said you're averaging 5.5 yards per carry. And then Satterfield was kind of like, I don't know what would lead the nation. Just for perspective, what's leading the nation is Miami at 7.9, Navy at 7.6, Army 7.5, Ohio State is 4th at over 7 as well. So I guess I'm kind of curious your thoughts on the offensive play calling that Nebraska's had so far this year.
I think it's always different when you played the game because I always see that play calls are literally, success is measured by can all 11 guys do their job. And I've always looked at it when we've gone in the film room and I've never said, man, that's a terrible play call. But I've looked at it and said, man, I didn't run a good route. Man, the tackle missed his block. Oh, the quarterback didn't throw a good pass. The running back missed the hole, missed the blitz pickup. So I would not look at the play calling ever, as far as I'm concerned. That's just not somewhere where I focus when I'm looking at film and studying a team. But I think when you compare to, let's say, what Indiana has been able to do, and you look at their schedule, there's no ranked teams on their schedule that they beat. You know what I mean? And again, they looked really good. They looked really good against you guys. They looked really good all season long. But the test on their schedule right now, Maryland, I would say, but I mean, you look at it, it's like Florida International, Western Illinois, UCLA has not been great, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, and then you guys. And so, as you know, especially when you're talking about conference play, if you can avoid Ohio State, say maybe Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, then you have a chance to string together some wins before anybody can blink. And so when you look at the rest of their schedule, they have one ranked team on it, and that's coming to Ohio State, which is going to be a tough win to get. But they've set themselves up by playing good football, but partly because their schedule has been a little softer than what Nebraska's had to deal with. So you know how these cycles go.
Yeah.
In certain years, Alabama gets to avoid playing Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
In certain years, Oregon will get to avoid playing maybe an Ohio State or a Penn State or someone like that. So I would not look at this thing and say, hey, man, Indiana's found really great success. They look really great, and we have not. No, they haven't really been tested. But when they played you guys, they looked really good. You guys did not. And I don't have a problem with the play calling.
All right, talk to me. You're a former Buckeye. What's your score prediction? Ohio State, Nebraska this weekend. Ohio State's favored by 25.5 points at the moment.
And so you guys are coming off of a game where you took a beating to Indiana, whereas Ohio State's coming off of a bye week. A bye week where they entered it very angry because of their loss to Oregon. And so it's at Ohio State, and I expect the Buckeyes would come out on fire, angry, ready to fix some things. You guys are traveling here. I don't expect this game to be close.
I don't know if people know this, but Nebraska plays 4 opponents: Indiana, Ohio State, UCLA, and USC. They will all be coming off buys, 4 straight games for the Huskers. All right, as you look at the last 4 games after Ohio State, you've got UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa. All right, do you have like a prediction for how many games you think Nebraska can win? 2, 3, 1, 0, 4?
I don't have a prediction for how many I think they'll win. They have 4 winnable football games.
Yeah.
Those are winnable football games. Now, that easy? Absolutely not. USC has been in every game with everybody they played. Whether they come out on top or bottom, it's been a close game. You know, Wisconsin's going to be a physical football team. You know what they do. Same as Iowa. It's going to be a physical football game where they're going to try to run the football. You know what they do on defense. They don't give you a whole bunch of looks on defense. Cover 2, cover 4, maybe some cover 3. That's all they do. But they're really good at what they do. And so Nebraska has to bring their A game. None of those wins are going to be easy. So they're going to have to bring their A game. And you're doing that after playing Ohio State, which sort of beats you up a little bit. So I'm not going to make a prediction on what I think they can do, but they do have 4 winnable games if they play good football.
Hey, man, I appreciate the honesty. The last question I got for you and I did cross over in D.C. for 2 years. All right, former teammates here. Do you have any, I mean, you can embarrass me. You can do whatever you want. Any interesting insights from your time with me or memories or funny stories or anything you'd like to share?
Hey, look. Hey, so my time in D.C., I was in my last season, which was season 16. And I'll be honest with you, when I look back at it, I only have funny stories of myself because I was sitting out in that parking lot staring at the building in the mornings, thinking to myself, I don't want to go inside.
Oh, wow.
I am in year 16. The locker room was young, and I was not. I think the fastest sign for anybody that's getting older is the music of young people starts to bother you. The noise starts to bother you. The attitudes start to bother you. And that old guy was like, man, I hate this music. It's all this cussing going on in here. I don't know how focused these guys are. I just remember sitting outside that building every single morning, staring at that building, thinking the meeting starts at 8 o'clock. I'm going to walk in this thing at 7:58 and go straight to that meeting room and try to survive the day. If I could give it back, I would. If I could go back and say, hey, let me retire a year earlier, I would. That's what I remember of that last year in D.C.
In fairness, it was an interesting year. Donovan McNabb and Coach Mike Shanahan were not getting along great. Albert Hainsworth was Albert Hainsworthing, if you want to put it that way. So, all right, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Check out Joey on ESPN. He does his thing. Check out CarrikerChronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. 3 questions, 3 answers. Let me know your responses below. Number 1, your thoughts on how Dylan Raiola has played so far this year. Number 2, your thoughts on Marcus Satterfield's play calling. Number 3, do you feel better or worse about the Huskers after hearing Joey's analysis? Till next time, go Big Red, and always remember to throw the ball.